Good evening. I am Dr. Lisa Isaac, President of Gateway Medical Society, and I am pleased to welcome you to the third installment of our 2023 Virtual Community Symposium series on dementia. Whether you have joined us previously or this is your first time, I'm sure your participation will be beneficial. I will be brief in my remarks tonight as I am recovering from a bit of oral surgery and talking comes at a premium. Let me say that Gateway Medical Society was established in Pittsburgh in 1963 and is a component of the National Medical Association. It is our mission. It is our mission to eradicate healthcare disparities. And one way we do this is through education. Tonight, Gateway is thankful to work once again with Pittsburgh Black Nurses in Action and Dementia 360, as well as the Pittsburgh Foundation, who helped sponsor this series. And tonight, this third in the six-part series is entitled, What You Can Do to Build Better Days at Home. To recap, so far, we have learned that dementia is quite prevalent and affects the lives of just about everyone in one way or another. We learned that while dementia patients may not remember facts, they maintain their emotional needs and feelings. And in the second installment, we learned valuable insights and tips on developing communication skills to allow for more successful and less stressful interaction with persons with dementia. Tonight, we will gain some knowledge on how to build better days at home. Our panel facilitator is Michelle Carter. And once again, allow me to introduce her to some and reintroduce her to others. Michelle has been in the nursing field over 25 years. She graduated from community college with RN, attended California University of PA for BSN and Aspen University for a master's degree in nursing administration and management. Michelle's practice experience is in long-term care. She has served as the director of nursing at Longwood at Oakmont for the past 5 years. She is a certified dementia practitioner and certified director in long-term care. Michelle is a member of the Pittsburgh Black Nurses in Action, the Black Nurses Association, and the PA Director of Nursing Association. She is the newly elected historian of PBNIA and has served on many committees and participated in outreach programs. Michelle is the co-chair of a monthly Zoom call, Talks About Tuesdays, for PBNIA. I am pleased once again to present Michelle Carter, our facilitator for this evening. Welcome, Michelle, and you can take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Isaac. I appreciate that wonderful introduction. Well, I want to welcome everybody that's on our webinar tonight. Welcome to our third session for our Dementia Family Caregiver Education. And as Dr. Isaac said, this is the third part of a six-part series. So I want to let you know a little bit about our program. The goal of Dementia 360, the program is an all-inclusive program. The program has recognized opportunities to reach the underserved population and ability to help them with education, coaching, and strategies to improve the life of both the patient with dementia and also the family caregiver. I want to let our audience know this is a recorded session. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of the session. Please, we welcome you to put your questions in the Q&A chat box. Also, you will be able to view this at a later date on the Gateway Medical Society's site at a later date if you want to go back and look at it if you missed anything. And I'd like to introduce our first speaker tonight. Amy Kowalski is a registered dietitian and a certified dementia practitioner. She is the acting executive director of Dementia 360 and works for Presbyterian Senior Care Network. Amy has many years of professional experience in many different areas of healthcare. She has worked in gerontology, dementia care, healthcare quality improvements, and nutrition. She has been in many task force and been leaders of many task force to redesign work processes, improving outcomes and safety and patient satisfaction. She's done this in the hospital acute setting and also long-term care and with other interdisciplinary groups. When Amy was young, her and her mother became caregivers for her grandmother, who was living with dementia. Amy realized that there was very little support in our healthcare systems for people that are living with family members with dementia in their home. She decided that she wanted to help and start helping them, providing care for the front line. She changed her career, devoting herself to improving quality of care and the quality of life for people with dementia and their family caregivers. Amy will be our speaker for tonight, and I'll let Amy begin our presentation.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you tonight. Like Michelle said, I do work for a program called Dementia 360. Dementia 360 really came to be because we know that life does not prepare anyone to be a dementia family caregiver. Yep, there's a lot of things that you need to know and you need to learn to be able to do that well, so that you can take care of the person who needs you and at the same time take care of yourself. And so this series was created really to bring the best of what Dementia 360 offers to all of you. And so it is, like was already spoken about tonight, this is a series of educational sessions. We are halfway through tonight. And in addition to that, with the series on the off weeks, you also have the opportunity to call in for one-on-one coaching to talk about specific situations that are happening at home, and our team can help you kind of problem solve and work through them. We found that this combination of teaching and individual coaching works well for the families in our program, and so we hope that you'll be able to take advantage of that and that it works well for you also. Next slide, please. So while that slide is advancing, the next slide actually does give a list of the topics along with their dates for the 6-part education series that we put together. Tonight is the 3rd installment, what you can do to build better days at home. You can see we offer these every other week at 7 p.m. every night, and each is a different topic, and we consider these topics to be the most important information for you as a family caregiver to know. So we hope that you can register and attend all of them. Next slide, please. And like Michelle said, if this is your first one, or if you have to miss any of the others, don't fear, because you can catch them all on the Gateway Medical Society website and listen to the recordings. You just go to gatewaymedicalsociety.org, click on news and events, select latest news, and look for the box pictured below and click on Gateway Medical Society virtual symposium recordings. Next slide. And then, as I said, on the off weeks between the presentations, we'll be offering 30-minute coaching sessions on Wednesdays from 7 in the morning until 5 at night. And so the dates and the phone number are listed on this slide. And so the webinars will help you get the educational information that you need to know. And then you can use the coaching sessions to talk with one of our dementia experts on how to apply what you're learning here to overcome challenges at home. So let's say you're having a lot of trouble because your family member doesn't want to change their clothes, and you've tried everything that you can to overcome that, and it's totally frustrating and you don't know what to do about it. That's a great scenario to call and talk through with us. Those are the things that we can help you with. Next slide. We are almost ready to get into the talk, but before we do that, I also wanted to share that for everybody who registered for the session, we will mail you a workbook that gives you all of the information from all the 6 sessions. because we hope the info will be handy for you in the future. And we also would like to learn from you about what you're experiencing at home and whether this series has been helpful to you. So to do this, we would like to ask you if you could fill out a short survey at the start of the series and then at the end of the 12 weeks that asks you a few questions about your caregiving journey and the series. And we are also raffling off some Target gift cards. So if you are interested in participating in the raffle, just make sure you fill out the line that says your name and contact information. We'll put a link to the survey at the end of the chat if you want to do it electronically. We'll also mail a copy of it with you, or with the workbook that we're going to be sending out to you. So now let's get started with our presentation tonight, what you can do to build better days at home for you and your family member. So what we hear a lot in our work from families are things like this. He sits in front of the TV all day long, doesn't do anything. She gets really restless later on in the day, or he follows me all over the house, or she's constantly getting into everything. Sometimes people say, every time I ask her if she wants to do something, she says no. So this is what you see, but I want to take a few minutes to talk about the meaning behind each of these situations. Next slide. So I had a teacher who used to kind of drill into our heads, all behavior has meaning. And this is especially true when it comes to dementia. You just need to learn how to figure out what the meaning behind the behavior is. So let's talk through the typical meaning behind each of those things I just talked about. So he sits in front of the TV all day long. The reason that this can happen is because he doesn't know what to do next. So dementia and how it affects a person's brain takes away the person's ability to plan what they would like to do. So the next time you see them sitting in front of the TV, think of it not necessarily as a choice, but as kind of their resting state when they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Honestly, they need your help to identify and get started with other things. Next slide. She gets really restless later in the day. We hear this so much. So many people write this one off as being part of sundowning and believe that it's just part of the disease and something that you can't do anything about. You know, while sundowning can be a factor for many people, this happens actually out of sheer boredom. Maybe this is the same person that sat on the couch watching TV, you know, kind of nodding off for many hours, and now they have all of this pent up energy from not doing anything all day, and they can't stand sitting around anymore, and they think, I just need to get up and I need to do something. But again, they don't know what to do, so often they'll get involved doing something that you might rather them not do. So this later in the day restlessness can be the perfect storm for you as the family caregiver, because if you're anything like me, you're generally tired at the end of the day and maybe not feeling like you're at your best. And so when you want to wind down and you see your family member winding up, you might respond in a less than positive way. Teepa Snow, she's one of the great dementia educators. She actually compares having dementia to being on a cruise ship. And so if you've ever taken a cruise before or gone on vacation, you know, right before the cruise, you feel like you have a million things to do. You're so busy, you're so stressed, you know, working from a list. And so when you finally get to that first day on the ship, you say, I am going to find a chair in the sun and a fruity drink, and I am going to sit here and not do anything. And the concept of not doing anything sounds really good because it's a break from your regular busy life. Hey, do you want to go on an excursion? No, that's okay. You go. I'm going to sit here with my drink. But what happens after a few days of just relaxing? people start looking for more things to do. So maybe a few days in, you start hitting the casino on the boat or start looking at the excursions that you could take. You actually get tired of not doing anything at all. So your family member with dementia is tired of not doing anything at all. Day after long day of not doing anything. At some point, we'd all be ready to jump out of our skin. They're bored. You would be too. Next slide. So he follows me all over the house because, again, he's not sure what he's supposed to be doing or what he should be doing next. So a person with dementia might follow you because they're feeling kind of anxious and uncertain. They might feel like you, as their caregiver, is the one kind of safe and known aspect of life to them, almost like a life preserver. For you to reduce the frustration of being constantly followed around, it can be helpful to remind yourself that they're doing this because they're anxious and scared. It can also be helpful, as we talked in an earlier presentation, about finding regular ways to get a physical break from caregiving. But let's talk about how to deal with this in the moment. If they're not sure what they should be doing, be prepared to have a few things you can get them involved in doing. You can help to take away their worry by giving them something else to think about besides their worrying. We'll talk about what some of those things could be in a little bit later in the presentation. So she's constantly into everything because she wants to be busy and she's looking for something to do. Again, most of us are used to being constantly busy. Dementia doesn't take away our history. Think about a constantly busy life, raising babies, cleaning, cooking, driving, working. That takes a lot of energy. Then fast forward suddenly to having dementia and you still have the energy, but not the focus to figure out what needs done. So you start looking for things to do. That's what a person who might be rummaging around the house or getting into everything is doing. And finally, lots of caregivers say, well, I ask them what they want to do, or if they want to do something, and they always tell me no. This is so frustrating. And that actually goes back to an earlier presentation last time's about communication, where we learned that if you ask a person with dementia a yes or no question, 7 out of 10 times, they're going to respond with a no. So if we know that, and we know that we can't change them, what we can change is how we ask the question. So instead of saying, Mom, do you want to go to church? Maybe you want to say, hey, Mom, do you want to go to the 8:30 service or the 11 o'clock service? Where either answer accomplishes the goal of getting to church. Next slide. So we're going to go back to this slide, which is actually a review from the first talk. And it's about what people with dementia need. And the answer is they need the same thing as all of the rest of us. They need to be needed. They need to love and be loved. They need the opportunity to care for someone or something. They need to have their self-esteem respected. They need to have the opportunity to make choices. They need to have opportunities to be useful. The point of this slide is people need to do things that matter. They need to feel at the end of the day that what they did was important, that their existence made a difference, and that they're tired from a day well spent. So going back to the example of the woman who was constantly into everything, let's imagine she was a homemaker and she took care of her house, made meals, took care of and cleaned up after 6 kids and a husband. She's used to being busy. Now she has dementia, and so she's not really sure what she's supposed to do, but her years of being busy cause her to start rummaging. Maybe she's thinking she's cleaning up after kids. Maybe she's thinking that she needs to clean the house. She's just looking for what she is supposed to be doing next. Now you can choose to say to her, Mom, sit down and watch TV. Mom, don't do that. Mom, come over here. But does that meet her emotional need to do things that matter? No, it doesn't. Instead, we need to look at how to get her involved in something so she can feel the sense of accomplishment that she needs and burn off a little bit of energy in the process. Next slide. So what we're really talking about to build better days at home is filling their day with meaningful activities. So what are we talking about here? When you think of activities, people automatically think of coloring books or word searches or jigsaw puzzles, as if people automatically start liking to do those things once they have a dementia diagnosis. I don't really like doing any of those myself. But the truth is, when we talk about meaningful activities, it's about much more than that. Meaningful activities are leisure activities, things I do for fun. It's about exercise. It's about activities that I do to take care of myself. It's about things I do to take care of my house or the people or the animals that I love. It's about spiritual activities. Might be about doing creative things like making something. And so we want to talk with you about meaningful engagement and activities, not so you think, oh, so this is something else I have to do now. I'm the entertainment director at home. But we want to talk with you about how to use meaningful activities as a tool to make the days better at home for everybody involved. Next slide. All right, so this slide is important. If you've been multitasking at all, this is the one that you want to pay attention to. The big takeaway for tonight's talk is that keeping a person with dementia meaningfully engaged, meaningfully doing things that matter, is the single most important thing that you can do to prevent and manage behaviors. If there are behaviors, the way to treat that, it's not taking pills from the doctor. It's making sure that they have something to do each day that matters. So another way to say this, if you want to break it down a little bit more simply, if you don't want them to do something, you have to give them something else to do. If you don't give them something to do, they'll find something to do. And chances are it might be something you don't really want them to do. So we're really not talking about fun and games for the sake of fun and games. Meaningful activities are a tool for better days. Meaningful activities are good for sleep. They're good for that person's self-esteem and good for their brains. You've all heard the phrase, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And it's also good for their mood. And usually if they're in a better mood, you'll probably be in a better mood also. So again, keeping somebody with dementia meaningfully working on activities is the single most important thing that you can do to prevent and manage behaviors. Next slide. So what if you don't? So because dementia affects the person's ability to plan, like we said, they really can't think about what they should be doing or what comes next. So without your help, they may spend a lot of time sleeping or sitting in front of the TV. Not because that's what they decided to do, but again, because they can't think through how to get started and finish something else. And it turns out as dementia goes on, TV gets to be less and less helpful. They can't process it. They can't really follow along, so they fall asleep. And we know that sleeping during the day does not help them to sleep well at night. And so as dementia progresses, it is common also for people to sort of shy away from unfamiliar activities, even social situations and places they used to like to go or things they used to like to do. And this can be frustrating for caregivers who say, well, I don't understand. You used to like to do this all the time, and think that their family member is actually lacking motivation now. you can expect with dementia to see that reaction. As the world becomes less familiar, it can be normal to retreat a bit, but you don't have to be discouraged by it. But what you do need to do differently is start to adapt the things that they used to do so that you can continue to do it with them. It will just look a little bit different now. Next slide. So now we'll talk through some techniques to get them involved. And so we talked about this one a little bit already. So change how you ask the question. Instead of saying, do you want to, where you could get a yes or no, instead give two choices. Do you want to wash the dishes or do you want to dry the dishes? It is also very helpful to use the magic words, will you help me? Because that helps to meet that emotional need of, I feel like I'm helping another person. So phrasing it that way, even when it's a care task for them, can actually help you to get them involved. Make it fun, build it up. You know, I have a surprise for you. This is going to be a great time. Again, they will mirror your emotions. So if you look like you're happy and positive about something, they will be more likely to be happy and positive about it too. And then, you know, we all have less exciting things to do in life. And when something is less exciting, word choice becomes really important. So for example, you know, I wish I was one of those people that would get really excited about going to the gym, but you know, that to me is actually a task that I have to do. So instead of saying to me, hey, do you want to exercise? Where I might throw a tomato at you, you might want to say, let's get out and get some fresh air. You know, because after a long work day, fresh air, that sounds kind of nice for me. For some people, you know, a trigger, taking a shower can actually be a trigger word. And so, you know, in some of our care communities, people will say, instead of saying, do you want a shower or do you want a bath? Let's go wash up. And it does not give that person the same reaction at all. Or you can talk about, hey, let's use the new spa set. And, you know, so you are focusing on something pleasant about the task than the task itself, which isn't so exciting. And we also encourage you to find what we call some failure-free activities. So things like painting or drawing or listening to music where there's actually no right or wrong. So, you know, how I paint might be different than how you paint, but at the end of the day, we both, you know, painted a picture. It's just all about creating something. And music is actually worth talking about for a minute here too. Did you know that actually music and song lyrics and rhythm is something that is actually kept in a person's brain with dementia for very long and very late into the disease? So, you know, you actually will see people who cannot talk anymore that can sing. So if you can connect your person with a song that is meaningful for them. So I'm not talking about just leaving Pandora on all day long because more music is better. I'm talking about using music as a tool. So it's important music to me. So for me, it might be, you know, my wedding song. It might be a song that I remember my mom singing to me as a little girl. It might be a song that I remember when we were on vacation. And you know, like we all have those special songs that when you hear the song, it takes you right back to what you were doing at that time. That it happens to that person living with dementia too. So a way to kind of bring them to better days. So think about, you know, how to use that, how to use music to make better days. You know, if you see them maybe starting to get a little grouchy, or, you know, that usually happens like later in the afternoon when the sun starts to go down, like maybe around 3 o'clock, it would be good to start putting some of their favorite music on and singing a little bit together. If there's something that unpleasant that needs to happen, like a shower, you might put on a song to lift their mood beforehand, so you start out on better footing. If they need to exercise, that's always better with music. So play some of their favorite songs to get them up and going. That music it's really amazing and very worth using when you are caring for somebody with dementia. Next slide. So during the activity, what did you do and what do they need from you? So give a lot of support and reassurance, especially if the person is feeling uncertain about what they're supposed to do or that they'll be able to do it well. We'll work on it together. We're a team, or keep telling them, you know what, you're doing a good job. This is great. Help them get started. A lot of times, actually, starting a task or initiation is the hardest part. Sometimes if you can get them started, they can take it from there, but without you getting them started, that it might never happen. Break down tasks into one step at a time. So too many directions can be really overwhelming. Let's give them one direction, let them do it, let them be successful, then give them another one. Demonstrate can be very good, particularly if someone is really struggling with like verbal communication. Sometimes using less words and demonstrating instead works like way better. So for example, if they're having trouble brushing their teeth, you might want to get out a toothbrush of yours at the same time. Put their toothbrush in their hand, put yours in your hand, put toothpaste on your brush, put toothpaste on their brush. Stand in front of them, start brushing your teeth, and they may start imitating that and brushing theirs. Or you may have to say, give simple directions. Now brush your teeth. And that can work really well. Again, if it's something less pleasant, like bathing, or something else that they really don't like, keep them talking about something else the whole time. I remember there was a woman that lived in our memory care community, and she would have a shower a few days a week. And if you walked past the bathroom, you would hear the aides talking with her during every single shower about when she used to be a beautician and all the people that she helped and all about hair products and all of that. That got her through the shower very well. But if you talked about the shower, she'd probably throw the bar of soap at you. Help if you see them struggling, but don't take over. Really, you want to focus on the process of the activity, not the result. So perfection is not the goal. They may color outside the lines. They may fold the towels differently than you would fold the towels. The goal is helping them feel useful. Never criticize, never correct. Never let them see you redoing something that they did, like either walk into another room if you need to fix something up, or wait until they walk into another room. At the end, always thank them for their help and for a job well done. And another word of wisdom is, if you try something with them one day and it doesn't work, or they seem like they're getting a little agitated about it, just back off and maybe try again later. Like, we all have off days. We all have kind of off times of the day. Maybe it's the wrong time of the day for them. Don't throw the activity out of your brain altogether. Just try a different day. Next slide. Okay, and so what I would encourage you to do, and obviously we can't do this on the course of this presentation tonight, but after we get off of this call tonight, or when you have a few minutes of quiet time, I would really encourage you to take the time to make a list of 5 go-to activities. And the reason for this is really so you don't have to think up something every time it looks like your family member might need something to do. So if you see them getting restless, or you know at a certain time of the day they might get restless, you need this, having these go-to activities, it gives you another kind of tool in your toolbox to be able to say, you know what, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I need to pull out the playing cards and ask them to help me sort them. And that way you can kind of ward off that restlessness because you've given them something else to do and something else to think about. And it doesn't need to be 5 new activities each day. Like when you find something that works and when you find something that they like, keep it up. They may end up doing the same activity like 5 or 6 times a day. That's okay. The point is keeping them meaningfully engaged so they're feeling good. So for example, if they like folding laundry, you might want to keep an extra laundry basket with extra socks that they can fold or match. Not necessarily, that might not be your good laundry that is going through circulation because maybe you don't do laundry every day. But when they need an activity, just pull out the laundry basket from the other room and say, oh my gosh, Mom, can you help me fold this? If they do well with sorting, another thing that you could do easily is take your jar of spare change and get out a couple of bowls and put a quarter in one bowl and a penny in another bowl and a dime in another bowl and ask if they can help you sort them. If they used to if it's a man and he was used to like doing kind of handiwork or construction, you could give him nuts and bolts to either sort or put together, or then later on you could have them take them apart. Again, I mentioned you could do decks of cards and they could, maybe sort them by suit, or if you shuffle a few decks of cards, they could then sort them by color. Maybe you want to keep on hand, like create a playlist of all of their favorite songs. I just worked with a family who she was taking a long ride out to her sister's place a few hours away, and her husband with dementia was in the car, and she would talk about how he would get restless and either want to get out of the car or start kind of getting really nasty. And so we created lists of, I think there was, they listened to Frank Sinatra and Christmas songs and Take Me Out to the Ball Game. She said they listened to it the whole way out and the whole way back. She said the cars next to us that saw us singing Christmas songs must have thought we were crazy, but he was happy. And that's what it's all about, because when he's happy, you're happy. Another easy thing you could do is keep a basket of greeting cards, so too bad we're after Christmas now, but keep a basket of greeting cards together for them to look through and, talk, and that help them see all of the people that love them, or look through old photo albums together. You could ask them to help with clipping coupons, whatever you think would be meaningful, something that you could keep on hand for them. Next slide. And now I just wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about routine, and how to use routine as a tool. And so you may have heard before people talk about how important routine is for a person living with dementia. And it definitely is. But that's not to say that you need to have a strict schedule written out for them from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's not what I'm talking about here. But first, giving you a little bit of background, although people living with dementia lose recent memory skills, habits are kept in a different part of the brain than where our short-term memory is. So habits actually stay with us for longer into the disease. And so routine ends up being automatic and familiar and comfortable for a person with dementia. So by sticking to the same routine, your family member doesn't have to think about what to do next or realize and get very restless because they're unsure what to do next. They know they do this particular thing every day, and so there is comfort in them figuring out what happens next in their routine in a world that is becoming increasingly more unfamiliar to them. And so this doesn't have to be hard because as a family caregiver, you know their routine better than anybody. And you are in the position of building in important parts of their routine to allow them to have their emotional needs met, to make sure that they do get some physical activity to keep them healthy, that they have opportunities to take care of themselves and other people. And also you can build parts of their routine to help you prevent or help you overcome care challenges. Next slide. So here's some examples of how you can use routine as a tool. So for example, first, if you know your husband loves to eat breakfast, but he forgets or maybe he resists changing clothes, build a routine that he changes into new clothes every day before breakfast. So Tom, as soon as you change your clothes, I have eggs and bacon downstairs. And then you do that and you apply that every single day. If toileting or going to the bathroom is an issue before it's a dire emergency or too late, but he looks forward to taking the dog for a walk every day, as he gets ready to go, kind of guide him towards the bathroom on the way out. If showering is a challenge, you could always try building in either a workout or some physical activity into the routine to give her a reason to take a shower afterwards. Whew, I am so hot and sweaty from that exercise. Do you want to take a shower first or do you want me to? The water's already on in there. If you are introducing a paid caregiver into the house to help with bathing, make sure that they come during the part of the day that your family member is used to actually taking a bath. I mean, people will make that mistake often where they say, I'd like to bring in a caregiver so I can get out and get a break and so they can help with care. You know, if your mother is used to, from her history, you know, getting up at 7 o'clock and being, you know, at work at 8 and having her shower, you know, at 7 before she leaves, even if she's been long since retired, if that has been her routine, bringing in a caregiver at noon and saying, hey, we're going to take a shower now. She's going to look at that person and say, I had my shower 5 hours ago. So you can't change that person. So you sort of, again, have to change the environment around them. So it's easier to modify the caregiver hours than it is to modify when your mom is used to and probably more accommodating to take a shower. And finally, if you know she gets restless in the evening, we talked about this, you know, be sure to build in a relaxing activity prior to when that starts to happen. You know, in the evening, maybe it's quiet activities. Maybe it's like, oh, let's make a cup of tea and look at photos, or, you know, let's rub some smelly hand cream into our hands, or let's listen to some soft music, things to help them wind down. And so, you know, you may have to use trial and error before you find a good strategy that works. Next slide. And so when you do find a strategy that works, again, use it every day so that it becomes a habit. Building and using habits is a really good way to help them stay involved in meaningful, purposeful activities for as long as possible. And as the dementia progresses, you know, his or her abilities will change. So know that when that changes, you're the one actually that has to be flexible and know that you'll need to be able to adapt the routine. For example, if he used to set the table, but now that's getting more difficult, maybe just give him the spoons or give him the napkins, saying, can you take these to the table? That way you still are maintaining his being involved in a way that he can continue to feel like he's being helpful and successful. Next slide. So again, the two big tools and takeaways for today: meaningful activities. Keeping a person meaningfully working on activities is the single most important thing you need to do to prevent and manage behaviors. Said differently, if you want somebody with dementia not to do something, you have to give them something else to do. And second, the importance of a routine for someone with dementia is this. Knowing what to do next helps a person with dementia be as independent as possible for as long as possible. And you can also use routine to help overcome challenges, particularly with care. Next slide. Okay, it is almost time for questions, but before we do that, just wanted to give 3 quick reminders. So please do consider calling in for a coaching session next Wednesday. If you have anything that you are struggling with related to care, or even your own stress level as it relates to caregiving, or things that you are worried about related to your person with dementia, really would encourage you to take advantage of that. Call in anytime between 7 and 5. The number is there. I think Michelle will put that into the chat for everyone to have also. Second, please remember to register and attend our next webinar in 2 weeks on Wednesday, February 22nd, and where we'll be talking about what you can do about behaviors or the behavioral symptoms in dementia. And third, if you haven't yet, take the survey. That'll be in the chat also. And again, you can also send back the paper copy that you get in the mail. List your name if you want to be registered to win the Target gift card. And now I am going to turn it back over to Michelle for questions.
Thank you.
Michelle, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, Amy. That was a wonderful presentation. It had some great information for us all. I did put the telephone number to call for the one-on-one sessions in the chat, and also I put the link for the survey and for the date for the next one-on-one session, which will be February 15th. We do have a couple questions. One of the questions was, my husband living with dementia often gets up at night and he sleeps and he's very disruptive. Should I give him medication to help him sleep? Or what other strategies should I use?
That is a great question, and something that a lot of families are dealing with. When it comes to medications for sleep, there are definitely some pros and cons to weigh. I mean, your health is a piece of it and a very important piece to consider. But one of the cons are that many sleep medications are actually very dangerous for a person with dementia. But the good news is there are things that you can do that don't involve medications at all. And many of those things are those that we talked about today. Generally, I would take a good look at what is happening through the course of the day. If he is one of those people that is spending a lot of time either not engaged in anything at all or nodding off on the couch through the course of the day, I would encourage you to call in for the coaching session, and we could talk about some things to get him to be more active during the day. so that by the end of the day, he's tired out from a day well spent and will sleep better at night.
Thank you so much, Amy. I think those are good points. And I do agree with you just from my experience with the sleep medication, how you have to be very, very careful because you don't want to cause an increase of falls giving sleep medications also. We had this is a comment and a question together. Are there any other resources available for someone taking care of a loved one with dementia that's slowly declining?
Any other resources? So there are a number of resources out there. And so I will say again, that is a great question to call in for one of the coaching sessions, and we'd be glad to talk with you more about what your needs are so that we could potentially connect you to resources that would be helpful in your situation. Our formal program, Dementia 360, is one. It's a combination of education and coaching on an ongoing basis. Our program is very individualized, so that could be one that we could talk about, but there are many others.
Thank you. I think that just being able to have that one-on-one coaching session would be for the person that asked the question would be a great resource for you, that you can call in and you can you have some time that you don't feel rushed, that you can give some examples of what's going on. So I think that's great that you're offering that, Amy. Another question we have is, I have teenage grandchildren and they don't understand my mother's dementia, but they would like to spend more time with their grandmother. How can I get them engaged and help them understand what activities will be better for her?
Oh, well, that's really nice that you have teenagers that want to be involved, because they can definitely be part of the solution here. I would want to know more about grandma and what are the kind of the interests that she has, rather than just, giving you a list of what different activities could be. But I can say, for the grandchildren to ask that question, Grandma, will you help me with, would be a great way to engage her in doing something with them. But maybe, if she used to like cooking, maybe they could help her make a recipe or help look at old cookbooks with her. If she was kind of fancy, maybe they could spend a little bit of time maybe painting each other's fingernails. They could ask Grandma to read to them. It depends on what Grandma would like.
Thank you. We have a couple more questions. This one is, if my loved one will not get up out the bed during the day, what are their suggestions? Any suggestions of what we could do if they become combative and they won't get up? We can't get them to get up.
Mm-hmm. Well, a few different things that I would look at. Number one, I would say, how are you encouraging them to get out of bed? So, Mom, do you want to get out of bed? I don't really ever want to get out of bed either. Yeah. So if you give me the option, I'll stay in bed. So I would consider not asking that as a yes or no question. But if they do, if they are kind of grouchy and slow in the morning, what I'm also might encourage you to do is a few minutes before you're thinking it's time for them to start getting up, I would go in and maybe kind of open the blinds, start to let a little bit more light in there. So the sun is starting to tell them that it's time to get up, rather than, their nagging daughter, for example. And, maybe you start cooking some bacon down in the kitchen. And so you say, oh, Mom, once you get up today, I have a surprise. I made you breakfast. You have to think about what are the things that would encourage that person to want to get up out of bed, rather than just dragging them.
That's a great idea. That's really great, especially opening the curtains and letting them see the sunlight and kind of gradually letting them get up on their own because they realize it's daytime.
Mhm.
We did have a comment and a question about the use of melatonin as a sleep aid because it's a natural sleep aid. What are your feelings about that?
Mhm. I did a talk with a geriatric pharmacist once, and her perspective on that really was that I guess like melatonin doesn't hurt, but that the effects of it actually wear off after a short time. I mean,
Mhm.
nurses, doctors, I would encourage you to chime in there with your thoughts, but that was what I learned from my interaction with her.
Just from my experience as a nurse, I think melatonin is a safer sleep aid than maybe if you was going to use like a trazodone or Ambien because it does increase risk for falls. But any type of sleep aid that you would give, I would really look at what the risk for falls are first and discuss it with your physician.
Yeah. Well, and understand that even if, you decide the team decides that melatonin is appropriate in your situation, it can't be melatonin as the fix. It would be melatonin in combination with these behavioral strategies and keeping them involved in something during the day so they sleep better at night.
And one
I
good
say that like it's easy, and I know that it's really hard, but it's worth it, and it does work.
one good strategy that people have been using more often is aromatherapy to help dementia residents sleep also.
Mm-hmm.
We have one more question, and then we're going to turn it over to our colleagues. Where that question? Okay, my sister is living with dementia, and she would like to get more exercises, but she uses a walker, and she isn't able to walk very steady. Can you give some ideas or strategies of how I can help her be more physically active?
Mm-hmm. Well, first, I would say I think it's great that you are interested in keeping her active. I mean, that's really important to the well-being of somebody living with dementia. And so there are some great actually chair exercise videos that you can find out, for free on YouTube. That could be something that you could try. You could also, put on some music and encourage her to do some stretching or exercises, seated if she's not safe to be able to stand up. And I guess another question that I would ask is if you think that she has recently become more unsteady or weaker recently, like that would be something I would suggest talking with your doctor about. They could look at, could medications be having an impact on her, or maybe they would actually suggest some physical therapy to help build her back up again.
Thank you. Those are great points. This was a great presentation, Amy. I think this is a lot of resourceful information for our caregivers taking care of a loved one with dementia and how to help preserve their quality of life at home. We're going to turn it over to Joanne Boyd, where she's going to close us out.
Thank you to our panelists. Again, I'm Joanne Boyd. I am the president-elect for Pittsburgh Black Nurses in Action. This has been a great series, and I am thankful to the audience for taking time out of your evening as well to join in. I hope it has been informative to you. I would encourage you to, again, use the one-on-one sessions that are available to you next week and join us again the following for another series. So with that being said, I'm going to give you back your evening with a few minutes to spare. And thank you again for joining on.